probably one of the top 10 podcasters in Texas. Your content is always excellent, but it's the delivery and the engagement you have with the audience that gives me something to share.
You said that your greatest strength is connecting the right people for the right reasons at the right time. So what does that phrase mean to you now, looking back?
It's a spider web, is what it really is. There's 3 levels of networking.
The hidden job market is the things that aren't posted. It's through the relationships and the conversations that you're having.
All about it.
Welcome to the Who You Know Show, where what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference in your wealth, health, your business, career, relationships, and definitely in your life. And today, we're honoring Bill Wallace, the founder of Success North Dallas, a man whose name is synonymous with connection and legacy. Since 1988, Bill has been bringing people together, helping launch his businesses, publish books, and create jobs by connecting the right people for the right reasons at the right time. This conversation isn't just about his incredible achievements. It's about the deeper question of legacy and what it means for us all as we face life transitions and turning points. So, Bill, super excited, long overdue, my friend. I'm excited you're here.
We've been talking about this for a year more. If not
more.
Yeah, if not more.
I know. It's been pretty crazy. And we've had a lot of transitions ourselves with this show. I mean, different studios, just different things. So I'm, again, grateful you're here. Long overdue. Appreciate you. And I also want to say, I want to say thank you for all your support, because you know, I see the messages and the emails and the likes and you're very, very supportive of this show and the mission, and I just want to say I appreciate that.
Well, the question you asked there is why? Why am I supportive? You're probably one of the top 10 podcasters in Texas. Your content is always excellent, but it's the delivery and the engagement you have with the audience that gives me something to share. It's not just, hey, Trevor did something. No, it's, hey, Trevor has something to say that you really need to hear. And I've enjoyed sharing. I've got a lot of great feedback on sharing them.
Well, thank you.
So
I appreciate that. That means a lot for me. I mean, because when I first started, I struggled with this show just like anything else. When first time you start something, you know, and so it means I'm getting better, y'all. That's all that means. So I appreciate that.
People think podcasting's easy.
Right.
It's far from it.
Yeah.
You can get up and just say, oh, hi. But if you want to put on a real show, it takes a lot of work. And it takes finding the right people. And you seem to have a knack to do that.
Well, thank
Not
you.
necessarily today, but most days you find a right to do it.
No, you're definitely the right people. You're the right people because you're my type of people. You're a connector. Right? You're a relationship guy. That's what this show's all about. It's all about who you know. Like, that's you. This is you.
Thank you.
You're the right guy for this show. So take me back. I love, too, by the way, Success North Dallas, and I need to. Casey has been, for years and years and years, she's always like, come. And it just so happened to be the day that we always recorded the show, and so just schedule-wise was always not, but I did go one time, and I was like, this is freaking awesome. I loved it, and I was like, this meeting is so cool. And also, when I went down, it was like I already knew everybody. I was like, I'm at home.
It's old home week. But see, you just backed yourself into a corner.
Oh, okay.
You said, now we always used to record on the same day.
Yeah.
But now you don't.
Now
So
we don't.
Now you have no excuse not to come.
You're 1,000% correct. I need to be there for sure. I need to be in that room because I felt, you know, a lot of times when you go to a networking event or something like that, you feel, if you've never been, you don't know anyone or whatever, you might feel a little awkward or out of place, or trying to figure out what your role is in that event. Because I don't like to just be an attendee all the time. I like to have a role. I like to contribute. I want to contribute and add value in some type of way. And so you go to a lot of different events, but when I went there for the first time, it was like welcomed with open arms. I felt very supported. Like I felt like I knew everybody there. It was awesome. It was very cool.
You know, we have a volunteer crew out front whose assignment is very simple. Somebody new comes, they become their wingman. They take them around. They make sure they're introduced. They break up cliques so people are always talking to somebody new.
Ooh, love that.
Rather than these 4 people or 5 that always come and they always immediately go right together. We break those up because you already know those people. It's the people you don't know that you're there to meet. And I've always said I've mentored 35 juniors to doctoral candidates. And one of the things I've always told them is never meet a stranger. Worst case scenario, you'll know who you don't like. And that's the whole thing. Never meet a stranger. There's always opportunities. When I was with New England Mutual Life.
You did life insurance?
I did life insurance for many years.
No way.
I did life, health, disability, business planning, buy, sales, key person.
No way.
I platformed MDRT, $1 Million Roundtable, my second year in the business. I was actually Rookie of the Year for New England. But they flew me back and forth to Boston to speak at the career schools. And the talk was elevator pitch 2.0.
2.0, okay.
Elevator pitch.
Teach it to me because, look, I'm in the same business. That's what I do. I do insurance, financial services, retirement investments, and yeah, insurance is a big part of it. I did not know that.
No, I started my career walking around in the bowels.
This is what I want to talk about today. Let's talk about this.
Of UT Southwestern in Parkland, 4 o'clock in the morning, when the doctors, interns, residents were changing shifts right before rounds with 4 boxes of Southern-made donuts. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, to a point that if I wasn't there, somebody would call me. And I was referred to as the donut man.
The donut man.
And I focused on disability, of course, with the doctors, and then it led to everything else. So I ended up with several hundred doctor clients, and then they started doing stupid things, and I ended up meeting their attorneys. And so I ended up starting to speak at law firms on green time, uptime and downtime, and ended up insuring a large number of attorneys. And one day the young attorneys called me, and they said, could you help us? We are not all making partner, and we need to do a seminar. Well, young attorneys are going to come to something to get their name up that I was there and then leave. So I had a problem. So I looked at that, and a family friend was the former federal judge that every attorney was scared of. He was the lead district judge. Barefoot Sanders was his name.
Okay.
So I got Barefoot, Judge Sanders, to come and open it and close it. We did it at Humphrey Lee Student Center. We had about 8 different speakers, or 9, 10. Geez, I've forgotten. But at 9:30, Barefoot Sanders opened it. And he said, I'm really glad to see you all here. There's about 500 of you in this room. And as you know, the title of this day is Making Partner. That's what we titled it. And he said, unless you leave right now, when I come back at 4:30 to close this out, I expect to see every one of you in this room. We didn't have many leave. Then a couple of years later, they called me and they said, well, you know, we're not all making partner. They said, can you help us? Could you do another seminar? So I pulled together a bunch of people, and the title of that one was Do I Stay or Do I Go? And we brought in copy machine companies because you could test copiers for a year, how to make your stationery, IOLTA, trust accounts, the bankers. We talked about everything they needed to do before they left their existing employment in terms of protecting themselves and their family. We talked about setting up the office, the shingle, and spent the whole day. We had about 450 attend that. And obviously that led to more in my sales funnel.
Right.
And then the doctors and the attorneys started doing stupid things. They started doing startups, and I fell in love. And I ended up working with 164 startups in the C-suite, from LinkedIn to AOL, Broadcast Cuban when he had 12 people, on and on and on. And that became my sales funnel, because I would not work with a company with 30 or less employees unless I had the opportunity to meet every employee twice a year.
Wow. Because
there was no school of entrepreneurship. If you wanted to become one, you went to work for one. And so out of one gentleman, Jason Matthews, 18 companies, and out of another one, Scott Walker, 20 companies out of their stable that would just, hey, Jason told me to call you. Stock told me to call you. I'm getting ready to open my own company. I'm doing my own thing. And what do I need to do? And my whole premise was I never said I was a financial planner. I said I was an insurance agent. And my entire sales pitch, very simple. I'm here to tell you what you do not need to do, as opposed to all of these other people telling you all these things you need to do. You don't. They're going to come with you, because of their friendship with you, because of their faith in you, because of the idea. But we all know it's 5% idea, 95% team. And I would explain to them, I have a way for you to give equity without giving stock. And that was very simply put, let them, these new people, these people that are coming with you to start this idea, let them help you design the deferred compensation plan next year, the 401k plan. Give them ownership by letting them help design what is going to benefit them and their families. And it worked beautifully.
Wow.
It worked beautifully.
So I want to go back. So you got your start putting together events and seminars and really like a conference. You had like 9, 10 speakers, something like that. And,
right.
And 450 people. I mean, that's a lot of people. Organizing all of that, getting everybody together, getting the speakers. I mean, like, where did you learn that? Where did that come from? And then that's, I mean, a big part of what you're doing now, I mean, or what you've been doing with Success North Dallas and, you know, is organizing events.
When I came out of school, I had a professor, and he said, you thank everybody that you've interviewed with. You never burn a bridge. Well, I got fired from my first job. I was a systems analyst. Grad work was in computing sciences. And they wanted to move me to Florida. Well, I'm native Dallas. I've been here 75 years. I'm not leaving Dallas. I wasn't leaving then. My mother was one of 10. We had a lot of family unit here. I was one of 1 because she was one of 10. But we had a lot of family unit here, and I was not going to leave Dallas. And after about 6 months there, they said, we want you to go to Florida to bring up a hospital. How long is that going to take? Oh, a year or two, 18 months. You're going to, since I have a home here, you're going to get me a place there and fly me back and forth every couple of weeks? No. Are you going to do this? No. I said that I'm not going to do it. They said, that's insubordination. You could be fired for that. I said, read my contract. And at the end of the day, I did get fired. And so I went to work for a bulk wholesale rubber distributor and didn't like it. And after about 8 months, I started interviewing. And I interviewed with 5 companies. And one was an immigrant Jewish gentleman who was a dairy farmer in Israel who could not speak English, who came here, enrolled in the MBA program at UCLA to learn English, lumber business. And I'd already taken a new job with Gates. I hadn't quit my old job, and I went back to thank him. And Mike said, oh, my brothers and I, we were just talking about you. What you going to cost us? I said, what? I said, no, I came here to thank you for the interview. He said, you still got on those zipper leather boots? And he pulled up his pants leg. He said, I went out and bought some after you were here. And I'm looking at this guy like he's crazy. I said, no, I just came to thank you. He said, no. Now you got 3 jobs. I looked at him. I said, what? He said, now you got 3 jobs. And he said, Keith Kasich. That was his in-house CPA, who later became CEO of Lloyd's of London. And I looked at Keith and I said, look, I just came by to thank him. I've already got a job. I haven't quit my old one. And Mike Block interrupted. So now you got 3 jobs. You start to work for me today. You go on my payroll today. I looked at Keith, and Keith said, this is one of those, try it, you'll like it. And so I said, yes. And he said, how much are you going to cost me? I'm sitting back. How much am I going to cost you in an interview? I said, well, on Ferris, this is what I was going to start at. He's not, that's not enough. That'll be your take-home pay. And so for the next 3 months, and he said, oh, and the other thing was, he said, you're on my payroll today. You come here 2 weeks. Go quit your 2 jobs, get ready to come to work. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Oh, do you need any money today? No, I'm okay. All right, see you in 2 weeks. Keith. And he walks away. And that was the turning point. That was the first inflection point of my life. That gentleman, I sat on his couch while he was writing the lumber futures contract. I sat on his couch while he was selling millions of dollars worth of lumber, wholesaling it, truck car load, train car load. And after 2 months of sitting on his couch, he sends me to the West Coast. He says, you're going to learn the species of lumber by how much the splinter hurts. I was loading boxcars. I was trailing resaws, and I came back and I went to work, and it lasted about 2 years. We had a difference in ethics. And then I went to work for, he was at one end of the spectrum, then I went to work for Slaughter Brothers and had a great 8 or 10 years there, and realized at one point I was number 5 man in a family-owned Christian Science company. I wasn't family, I wasn't Christian Science, so I quit.
So what the question, I guess, I'm trying to follow, because that's a lot. That was a lot of detail there. When did you start putting together events, and what was the catalyst for that?
The catalyst for that was the fact that at Slaughter Brothers, I was running a department that did more than the other 3 departments combined, the specialty department, cedar, redwood, shake, shingles, and I had to do presentations.
Okay.
And I had to do presentations to the company, i.e. if you added a nickel a square to each shingle sale, what would it mean? I had to do presentations to Canadian boards of directors on tariffs they had a very ironclad rule in Canada, the companies did. If you went over X amount of % of production into one geographic area, you'd get fired. Just simple as that. You'd get fired. And so I had to meet with these people. I found myself doing presentations. I found myself spending 3 times a year, 2 weeks on the West Coast, and I would end up speaking to anywhere from 5 to as many as 20 people at the same time. And I found that I enjoyed doing that.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I loved it. When I left the lumber business, quote unquote, when I left Slaughter, I set up my own wholesale lumber company in my house. And my neighbor was the New England Mutual Life general agent. And I happened to be married to a Cuban lady who was wonderful. We're still dear friends right now. But he laughingly and jokingly said, you can't office at home with your wife. And I said, no, I can't. He said, well, I got some office space. And I said, oh, great. How much? Free? I'm not using it. Well, he had an ulterior motive. That was in March of 1983. October of 1983, I was going in the insurance business. And I wish I'd done it sooner. I never looked back. And I laughingly say, nobody's written me a paycheck but me since March of 1983. And I wouldn't trade it for the world.
You said that your greatest strength is connecting the right people for the right reasons at the right time. So what does that phrase mean to you now, looking back?
Wow. It's a spider web is what it really is, because I can look at Trevor and who I've connected Trevor to, then that person looks to that person who they've connected to, and it's exponential. But connecting the right people at the right time for the right reasons can be summed up differently. What do? I've got the greatest job in the world. I get to put 2 people together, take a step back, and watch the magic happen. And it's an art to be able to put these people together. And in 1979, I got a letter that said, would you help us build a house? And that letter was the Ronald McDonald House of Dallas. And I got involved because I thought they couldn't do it without me. That's when I was still in the lumber business. And 20 of us came together. Well, we opened that house debt-free around Valentine's Day, 1981. And I was kind of, I was vice president of some community interaction or whatever. I chaired the Speakers Bureau. So I was out in public, again, speaking and bringing people together, because that's the house that dries the tears, the house that cooks the meals, the house that love built. And people didn't understand that McDonald's does not own the Ronald McDonald houses. They get donations from McDonald's, but the 90% of their funding, if not 95%, comes out of the community. And it was my job and my little team's job to tell that story. And that, again, put me in front of a lot of people. But 6 months after it opened, Trevor, I was down there doing my thing, playing with the kids. And I was walking to the car, and I had tears rolling down my cheeks. I got in the car, and I started crying. And I realized that was the most self-serving thing I'd ever done in my life. That was the gas in my tank. And that letter in 1979 changed my entire life. And
Wait. What was so self-serving about it?
I thought they couldn't do it without me.
Oh.
I was in the lumber. I thought they couldn't do it without me. I got involved because I thought, well, this is something you're supposed to do.
Okay.
And the realization of the fact that I was getting so much more from that than I was ever giving to it and could ever give to it. And those kids, and that went on to Brian's house during
I got you.
AIDS.
So you got more out of it, and your thought, you had going in, you kind of had an arrogant thought of like, they can't do it without me.
Precisely.
And then you were getting more than you were giving. You were like, dang, I can't do it without them. Like, this is
the gas in my tank.
Yeah.
Literally, the gas in my tank. In fact, 15 years later, I was giving a talk, Vision, the Genesis of Making an Organization Work. And Dr. Mara Schreier Fleming asked me a question. She said, if you can change one thing in your life, what would it be? And I'm up on this seventh level of consciousness, looking down at myself on the stage. And the words that came out were, if I could have gotten that letter 1 week, 1 month, 1 lifetime earlier. Yeah, it was heavy. And through the Ronald McDonald House, I met some people, even though I grew up in Dallas, that I would never have met. When you say
letter, was this a physical letter?
This was a physical letter
what
from
did the
Dr. Dale Fuller sent it, who was head of oncology at Children's Medical Center, at that time now known as Children's Health. And the letter just simply said, would you help us build a house? And my response was, if you're crazy enough to ask, I'm crazy enough to say yes. You want to get together and tell me about it. And I had no idea what the house was or anything else. But it was the Ronald McDonald House of Dallas. That led, again, to Brian's house during the AIDS crisis, home for HIV and AIDS-affected kids, and several other things. But it changed my thought process. It changed the trajectory of my life. And through that, I met my mentor, Herb Kelleher, Southwest Airlines. And through that, with Herb's idea and encouragement, Success North Dallas was born.
Tell me about that story.
Well, in March and October seemed to be my months. But in March of 1988, I was sitting in Herb's office with my other mentor, Roger Meyer, Cadillac dealer. So I had an airline guy and Cadillac guy. Also had a rabbi as a mentor at that time, too. Dr. Rabbi Ken Roseman at Temple Shalom, and I'm a good Baptist. But Herb looked at me and he said, Wallace, there's 4,553 of you insurance agents out there. Now, when you figure out why I should do business with you, come back. Now get out and figure it out. That's almost a quote of what he said. And I looked at him and I said, what? He said, no, get out and figure it out. He said, I got to have a reason. And Herb had talked about transformation through disruption. He had talked about setting yourself apart from the herd. At that point in time, I decided that I'm going to start a high-level networking group, informal board of directors, mentor group. And I went to 48 different networking groups in North Texas, and I still have that list somewhere. And I looked for the things that people did not like. Not what they liked. That was easy. What they didn't like. Card pushers, pitch bookers, selling of wares in the room, having cards stuck in your face, literally, selling from the lectern, money trading hands in the room, sell-ups, an annual fee, but you have to pay for every meal. Geez. So, and in 1988, women. No one wanted women in networking in 1988. And I've been a proponent of women all my life. I was president of Rotary the year women were allowed in Rotary, and I heard some things, saw some things that I can't even repeat. But I said, accept women. And Herb, in his infinite wisdom, because if you know the history of Southwest Airlines, he said, you're going to have a problem. And I said, no, sir, I'm going to have a big problem. You said create disruption through transformational change. We're going to be a minimum of 30% women from day one. And I will never forget this. He stood up, he put his hand on his hip, and he said, well, blank, Wallace. I gave them hot pants and booze, free peanuts. You give them women and networking. And tongue-in-cheek it may sound, I didn't really realize what he was saying for 25 years until we did our 25th anniversary. Yes, this little group that was going to last 5 years. And our 25th anniversary was the only luncheon we've ever done. And Ambridge Hotels stepped up, and they paid for the whole thing for 440 people. Ross Perot Sr. welcomed, Boone Pickens hosted. We had the CEOs of Fluor, USAA, 7-Eleven, and help me out, BNSF, all in the same dais. And we honored Nancy Lieberman. But I understood what Herb said when I turned and looked out at the audience. And the audience was 50% women. And it was magical. And we've created a safe space. Card pushers are gracefully tossed. We're now going into our 37th year. Our members have started, if you can believe it, I can't, 120 companies.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you've launched, over 120 companies, more than 130 books, countless jobs.
1,300 jobs created or found. Yeah, I can't even believe it.
So when you think about those numbers, what do you think the legacy is that you're most proud of? Because that's a lot of accomplishment that's come out of that organization, and you ran that organization. So what's the thing that you're most proud of?
Well, the most proud that in the legacy of this organization, when it was 5 years old, I was getting ready to shut it down. I'd done something to separate myself from the herd. I was bringing people there to meet people. They were bringing their people there to meet me. And I thought, okay, I'm done. And this voice comes down, and part of my faith, and says, be quiet, my son, go back to work, you're not done yet. And at that point, one of my 5 sage goals was to have a woman follow me as CEO and owner. And at 35 years, I passed it on. I have an incredible woman, Casey Houston, CEO of Success North Dallas, an incredible young IP attorney that is taking the place of my number 2, Jan Claudner. His name is Andrew Reed. And they are doing a fabulous job. But that's one of the things I'm most proud of. The other thing
let me
the
dive
women.
into that. Hold on, let me dive into that real quick. So what was it about Casey, right? Because I'm sure you had lots of other people coming in and out of that group over the last 35 years, right? So what was it about Casey that stood out to you that you were like, she's the right one?
She drove me crazy. Can I do this? Can I do up with this? I'd get a phone call. I'd get this. I'd get that. She was always there. She was always interested. And I had no idea of who she really was until I really started listening to her. And it wasn't just that she was offering to help. It was that she was taking ownership. And it was the pride and the enthusiasm that she came forth with every time. So I ended up in the hospital. I was sick. I had 7 things I'd never had in my life. And I called Casey. I said, hey, you're running the meetings. Well, I didn't even know she ran the first one because I was pretty much out of it. And I brought them up to the hospital, and I said, this is a good reason. I wasn't going to do this for another year. But Casey, I want you to become the new CEO of Success North Dallas. And I said that in the hospital. And I knew that she was probably the one after 6 months. She was my third try to have a woman follow me. She had something none of the others had. She had an intensity, an integrity, and a passion that far exceeded anybody else. I wouldn't have known these if I hadn't taken a step back, shut up, and listened. Because it was what she did not say as much as what she said that convinced me that she was the right person. And she talks about legacy. She didn't talk about her legacy. She talks about my legacy now. She is so passionate about that. And the legacy, when I look back to the 35 juniors to doctoral candidates I've mentored, Success North Dallas one year, we ran across something called the Professional Leadership Program at the University of North Texas. Non-credit, met once a week, and it was to learn everything to go out in the job market that you didn't learn in college. And if you missed 2 without a good reason, you were out. You had to have a certain GPA. It was for juniors only. And I thought, this is, because one of my goals was that we started mentoring. I said, I think we found the right one. The first year, when we found them, they had 5 mentors. The next year, they had 85 out of Success North Dallas. I'm still talking to those kids today. One of them's doing all the outreach for Communities Foundation of Texas, Nick Marino. Another one is running a huge financial company in San Francisco, Fanny Zah. Another one from Mexico, she's running a public relations firm. And I'm so proud of these young people, but this wouldn't have happened without that letter, without Herb Kelleher, without, you see the spider web, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Just from talking with you, like one of the things that I've recognized already is that not only are you a people person, but like the people, the dots, the details, like as you tell a story, it's like so detailed. You have all the dots. Like this is who you are. This is part of your skill set, which is actually something that I'm a people person too, but I don't have the same skill set that you do, right? Yours is so far more in tuned, okay, with all the detail.
Yeah, but I don't have some of the same skills that you have too.
We all have different.
That's that. Yeah. You know, there's 4 levels.
Yeah, but no, it's a compliment. Like,
yeah, I appreciate it.
It's like the vividness in the details of people and relationships and connection. Like you have that, and it's valuable because I'm sure as you speak with somebody, you're like, there's another part of your brain firing off, going, "Ooh, I need to connect them with." Like,
can I address that?
Yeah.
May I? There's 3 levels of networking. And the first level is the boom, and that's when you meet somebody else. Chances are 80% both cards go in the trash can. 95% chance at least one of them. So what do you do to create some form of a hook? My question is, who's Trevor? And nobody asks a question like that. It takes people aback. I just did it in the lobby to somebody. He took a step back, and he said, wow, well, I'm this. And you make it all about them. And then the next level of networking is net weaving, where you start weaving your networks together. And that's exponential growth because it's like when Trevor and I weave our networks together, Trevor is now being woven into all of my networks, and I'm now being woven in to all of Trevor's networks.
That's so powerful.
And
actually,
it is exponential, folks. And then
it is. And that brings me to something I wanted to talk to you about, actually.
Okay, one thing. The
Yeah,
final
go ahead.
level, the
Yeah,
final
yeah.
level of
There's the
networking, the third, is servant leadership.
Okay.
And the servant leadership is when I meet Trevor, and the first thing that goes through my mind is who might I introduce Trevor to that would better Trevor, or who might I introduce Trevor to that he could better them. And that's the third level, the boom, the net weaving, the servant leadership. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes it work.
No, and I love that. What the second level of net weaving, right? At Success North Dallas, a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs. Like, tell me the typical people that attend that meeting, demographic that attends.
Demographic, 5% in transition, who we always introduce at the end of the meeting and ask anybody if they have any ideas for these people
Okay.
to come down afterwards and talk with them. It's kind of like they
I
do
thought
it.
I remembered you guys had
Always.
Yeah,
Always.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask.
New to
because-
Dallas, in transition, or looking for an internship,
Okay.
please stand up, give your name, discipline only, come down front
Love that.
afterwards. Anybody with an idea for these people, please go down and talk to them.
Beautiful.
Every single meeting.
Love that.
And I don't know, I have no idea what all has come out of that. But I do get a lot of calls and said, "Oh, I met somebody."
Oh,
this,
I
that.
guarantee
Unbelievable.
it. Okay, so because I would imagine if 5% is those folks, and then
The next 5 are students
students, okay,
that are getting ready to go into the workforce or interning or looking for internships.
okay,
And then you've got your C-suite executives that are there. You've got your entrepreneurs, your young business owners, your old business owners, and then you've got people that are just there for the content and to meet the people in a vein that perhaps I can help them. We have a number of sage people that literally have ended up sitting on some of these young people's boards, have helped them find boards, have helped them find financing, and it goes on and on and on.
Well, the reason I brought that up is because you've got, with the job seekers, right? The people that a big part of my audience, they're in transition, and so being able to, again, we're talking about net weaving, right? Getting more of those folks in that room, right? Because when I've done career events and stuff like that, anytime I can get the job seekers in the same rooms with potential employers, whether they're C-suite, right? These people work in these companies, the C-suite, the entrepreneurs, the business owners, right? Getting those same people in the same room at the same time, good things happen from it every single time. Jobs get created.
It's magic.
Right? And especially for my audience is typically 50 plus, okay? And they're dealing with age discrimination. They're having a hard time getting employment. And a lot of the big companies, it's really tough for them to crack into the big companies. And I always encourage them to go with the smaller companies where they can navigate relationship. It's easier to navigate relationship and meet people and connect. Some of the bigger companies, they're like Fort Knox. It's hard to get through their systems, and they have too many layers.
If you don't know the people right at the top, you're not going to get in. Because
Right.
the job you're looking for will never be posted.
Yeah, exactly.
Never. And
The hidden job market is the things that aren't posted. It's through the relationships and the conversations that you're having.
all about it.
And so that's what I'm saying. To get these people in that room, right, I think would be valuable. Like I'm thinking of, matter of fact, I've done this before. Frisco Connect is a group that I'm part of. And again, there's 100 senior level, job seekers over there. They're all looking. And they're having a hard time. And I'm like, man, we need to get those folks over here.
There's a group that was started by Chris Kleinhardt and Ashley Kleinhardt, Ray Hunt's daughter and son-in-law, called Executives in Action. And it was a place for senior level executives who are in transition to go work with a nonprofit or a startup where the startup nonprofit didn't have to pay for them. While they were in transition looking, many of those people stayed with those little companies. And those were the people that hired at the great big companies. But when I'm speaking to a group like yours, one of the things that I say is think about how you're spending your time, because there's a whole lot of groups out there for people in transition. And in those groups, there are very few people that are hiring. So go to one of those and at least 2, if not 3, of another type of group where there are people that are hiring.
Amen to that.
I know people that go to these in transition. I'm going to 4 this week. I'm going to 3 this week. And I'll look at them and say, so tell me, how many people total for the week will you see that are actually hiring people? Oh, maybe 3 or 4. I said, yeah, they're going to tell you how to write a resume. They're going to tell you this. They're going to tell you that. But they're not going to tell you, hey, Trevor, I'll pay you this to come to work for me next week.
Yep. And figure out how to get in those rooms where the people that are hiring are. Get in those rooms and figure out, this is what, for me, a strategy I do to help me networking, because I'm actually an introverted extrovert, very introverted. If I go in where I'm not, like, I don't know where I fit in or I don't know everybody, I'm actually very introverted until I find my role. So for me, what helps me to open up and be myself is to find a role. And I always encourage them, hey, talk to whoever the organizers are, the leaders of the event, figure out how you can volunteer, give back, serve. I don't care what you got to do. Can you hand out some name tags? What can you do to have a role at that event?
Get on the membership committee. That
Yeah.
way you get to meet every new person that's coming into town, every new
Bingo.
person that's joining the group. The people that are actually hiring are the ones that are going to be deciding what groups to go to. You find that, you get on the membership committee, and you get to go out and welcome these new people. The chamber,
Yes.
they send people out to every single new company that comes to town. They send people out when somebody hasn't renewed. What a great thing to do. Non-threatening personal introduction to a business owner or hiring manager or C-suite executive. Man, that's where I want to be if I'm in the transition market.
I love that. I see you got a book here. Talk to me about your book. When did you write this?
Several years ago, I'd been encouraged to write a book, so I had about 60,000 words written, and it was 60,000 words. It was almost meaningless. And I met a guy through C-Suite Network, of which they've got 200,000 members. I was the first member. And he lives in California. His name is Levy. And he said, I can help you with that. And I said, yeah, sure. We had a book out in 3 months. It was there, but it wasn't there. And I found somebody that knew more than I did to help me with it. And the title was probably the hardest part, but the title is Being a Catalyst for Success. The tagline is The Fulfilling Life of a Servant Leader. And a friend of mine, I told him about the book, and he said, wow, you want me to write the foreword? And I said, sure, that would be an honor. I've not seen you've written a foreword. He said, I've written two. Gentleman's name was Tom Leppert, former mayor of Dallas, former president of the largest construction company in the world, Turner. And when he left as mayor of Dallas, he took over Kaplan. And I think unfortunately, the intro is better than the whole book. The foreword's better than that. But it came out. It went to a bestseller. It's a lot of fun. The book I'm working on now it's not who you know or what you know. It's what you know about who you know. And
my gosh.
Getting to know who you know.
What did I tell you your gift was a minute ago? What did I tell you your gift was a minute ago? I said you have a gift for knowing those details. It's what you know about who you know.
It's not who you know. It's not what you know. It's what you know about who you know.
Oh, my God.
And there is a book out there right now by Bob Bodine, and it's called The Power of Who. And the power of who, the premise of this book is you already have those 12 people, your who, those people that are already in your network that will take you to the next level. You just do not know who they are. And that's the premise of this whole book. And the second book he wrote was the most powerful book I've ever read in my life on prayer, other than the Bible, Two Chairs. And Bob has sourced, I think now, 85% of the athletic directors at colleges throughout the U.S. That's what he does. So he gets to speak to the athletic student bodies. I was with him one time having lunch. I said, what are you doing from here? Oh, I'm flying up to speak to the athletic student body at Yale. Oh. But all of those things. And he said, my whole goal in life is to help people understand that you already have that network. You just don't know who they are. Where my big goal when I was mentoring somebody is that you have to have a network. Access is the coin of the realm. And when you leave that 10-year job that has just been great and you're all focused and you walk out the door with no network, you have no access. I don't care how many PhDs you have, how many patents, how many widgets, how many titles. Without access, without a network, you have nothing. So back in the day that there was a Rolodex, now it's different. But I would tell people you have, first of all, two brands. You have the company brand that you work for, and you have your personal brand. Your personal brand is far more important, far more valuable, and far more long-term than your company brand will ever be.
Amen to that.
You keep two Rolodexes. You have a business Rolodex at the office. It never leaves the office. You have a personal Rolodex at your home that never leaves your home. But in that personal Rolodex, you've inserted your entire business Rolodex. Because those people, that one person, it was like going back and interviewing, as this professor said, with all the people you, go back and thank them, all the people you interviewed with. Well, they could easily be the source of your next job or your next referral, or saying, I was having dinner with Scotty last night, and he told me he needed a new CFO, and he just didn't want to go through the crap of hiring one. He knew he had to. But I think you'll fill the bill. Here's his phone number.
You know, I think for a lot of people that work in corporate America, they don't do a lot of networking. They get in a corporate role, they get behind a computer, or they're doing whatever they're doing, and they're not thinking with this mindset of relationship and how this person sitting across, how the guy in the next cubicle could potentially open a door for them 10 years in the future.
Or
right?
be their next boss.
Or be their next boss. That's what I'm saying. So, like, they're not looking at it from that lens, and so they're not building relationships. They're not connecting with people as they're working, and then all of a sudden you get let go and you're laid off, and you're like, you need to network. Everyone's telling you need to network, and you're like, I haven't been
What is
doing
networking?
anything. Exactly. What would you recommend for that person that, like, literally has just been, like, neglecting their network, has not been watering the seeds, and has just been neglecting it, and they get in a season of drought?
Well, a minimum of twice a month, go to an association meeting,
Okay.
or some meeting that is pertinent to your industry, where you meet other people in your industry. Do that at least twice a month. When you get the opportunity to go to a gala or a luncheon, whatever it may be, you get there 30 minutes early and you leave 30 minutes after it's over, because other than that, you'll have another $40 to $250 piece of rubber chicken. You're going for the contact. When I get an invitation, I look at the board of directors first, then I look at the host committee second. I see who I know. I see who I want to know that might be there, and then I make a decision whether I go or not, unless it's something, well, like the Ronald McDonald House or Single Parent Advocate or something that I totally believe in and support. But I look at who's going to be there to make the decision. I look at a networking group or a networking opportunity. There's one that I go to once a month, and it's difficult to get to. But in that 2 hours, I can see 30 to 40 people that I want to stay in contact with. I don't have to call them. I don't have to go to lunch with them. I get to see them there. They get to see me. The beauty of Success North Dallas was I sent an invitation to everybody I was doing business with and I wanted to do business with, and that was moving to Dallas. And the response was fabulous. And people will say, well, how do you do it? How did you do it? I said, I love on people. I love on people, and they love on you back. My question is, are you doing that to your clients? Are you doing that to the people you want to go to work for? Because you'll find when you start loving on other people, they'll start loving on you back. When you start taking people to meet other people, they'll start bringing people to meet you.
Absolutely.
And that is, in fact, your door key. When I left the insurance industry, 90% of my business was coming out of Success North Dallas, including those 164 startups I worked with. 90%, because people were bringing people there to meet me, because I took people there to meet them. I loved on people. They loved on me back. think about that as you're in the job market, in the transition market, or have a great job and are in the networking market. Because networking and net weaving, it is a job.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a job you can become passionate about and you can have fun with and you can embrace, that will pay you tenfold dividends as you go on through your life.
I got a question more so for me.
Yes, sir.
You've got like so much wisdom. Like I wish I could just get in that brain and just get.
No, you don't.
I look at this as like a coaching session. Here's a question for me that I think you could help me with. Knowing what you know about me, because you know the details. You're the detail guy. You know all the little things. If I was trying to get on more stages and to be in front of more groups and to really maximize the impact with the message that I have, the audience that I have, the platform that I have, what would you do if you were in my shoes to take it to the next level?
Well, first of all, I'd go back to the basics. You're happier by yourself on the bank of the river fishing.
It's true.
That's where you're happy. And that I picked up from all of your social media, your posts that you put out, and the look on your face and the different style that you write a comment than when you're not there. So you have a natural born audience there, just like a friend of mine that has a PhD. She's a speaker, and she's a pickleball coach, and she speaks from Dubai to Singapore because she plays pickleball. Come on. How do you make a living playing pickleball? She plays pickleball. She coaches pickleball. She speaks about pickleball. She goes to where the pickleball people are. A lot of the people that fish have a lot of money. So why don't you talk to the Paparellas, not Paparellas, of Hook and Barrel magazine, John Radswell and Natalie Paparella. Why don't you start writing an article on fishing for them? They would love it. See, I used to send out letters when people, in fact, the Dallas Business Journal asked me to do an endorsement for them.
I love where you're going with this.
And my endorsement was this.
Smart.
Why does Wallace take 2 subscriptions to the Dallas Business Journal? Answer, because I could not teach them to write on one side of the paper. I would take the Business Journal, and I got 10% of my business out of that. If you were moving to Dallas, I sent you a note. Plain envelope, New England Mutual Life letterhead, talking not about insurance, about me, but about Success North Dallas, saying, you're moving your company to Dallas. This is a great organization. I'd love to invite you to come, and perhaps you might even be a potential speaker. But it's a good way to connect. 35% response to that. Unbelievable. I'm talking C-level. I'm talking about the CEO of Penny's when they moved from New York to here. Secondly, I would send it to anybody, cut out the picture or the note, anybody I did business with. It was a natural contact. And the third, I'd send it to anybody I wanted to do business with. I did this on a weekly basis. It took me about an hour a week, and it paid huge dividends. So I would look for things like that. I would also look for stages. You know, if you want to become a speaker, you know, I don't know how many Rotary clubs, but they need anywhere from 48 to 50 speakers a year. There's places to speak where people are hiring, where people are doing business, where looking for other things. So I'm going to give you an example. We're in Texas. You know what a cow herd looks like? It's a big oval. Front of the cow herd, there's the trail boss. On the sides, there are the outriders to hold the herd in. At the base of the herd, the back, there's the drag to pick up the strays. Now, change all of those cattle in that cow herd and the outriders to insurance agents, financial planners, or speakers. Why would I ever go into the herd to find somebody to do business with, to find somebody to date, to find somebody to bank with, when 4 have already separated themselves from the herd. So my question to you is, what are you doing to separate yourself from the herd?
Yeah.
What makes you one of those 4? Because I'm not going in the herd.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. You know, I will say that I am different from anybody else in financial services. I don't know anyone else that helps the job seeker community serves. They're usually trying to serve affluent, high net worth individuals, business owners, people that are more money, more problems, right? Like even yourself, when you said when you were in the business, and that's everyone, they were all doing it. Everybody they teach it. Affluent, high net worth, business owners, right? That's where they approach. I found my niche serving the job seeker community, helping them through a tough time because, and it's so funny, you think, you know, you're helping people with their money, but they're out of work. They don't have any money. No, they still got money. They need help. They need help with their money more than anybody because they're out of money. They're out of income. They need help. They actually have a need. There's a need there, right? So I found that it's kind of like if you got a toothache, you're going to go see the dentist, right?
They have a burning desire.
They have it. They have a burning desire, yes. The first time I remembered this was I was hiring for an assistant, and I went on Craigslist actually to hire. Like I put a job post on Craigslist, and I put a link to my calendar, and I remember like it was yesterday. It was like probably my first year in the business, second year in the business, and my calendar exploded. My online calendar I put a link in there. Just go ahead and schedule an interview with me, right? And all of a sudden my calendar went, and all these, like, my calendar filled up. And I remember walking over to Mark Elder. I walked over to Mark, and I was like, Mark, oh my gosh, my calendar just filled up. I don't, like, that's never happened before. My calendar just filled up. And he's like, yeah, what? I was like, yeah, I put the job application out there, and my calendar filled up. And he's like, yeah, they need a job. These aren't appointments. Like, these aren't, like, they're not here to have an appointment with you. But I was like, no, you don't understand. There's something to that. My calendar filled up just like that. I don't know what it is. There's something to it. Here we are, fast forward 8 years later. I serve the job seeker community. I found a need, and I was like, okay, but to Mark's point, they need a job. Yeah, let me help them get a job. Let me help them recover their income. And if I can do that, yeah, that separates me from the herd. Not other financial advisors, other financial professionals, insurance professionals, they're not going to help you get a job. I do.
Just like I tell people, you don't need to buy this.
Yeah.
I focused on what they didn't need as opposed to what they needed because everybody else was telling them they needed all this.
Yeah.
You're helping them get a job. It's like at Success North Dallas. Somebody's in transition, we'll scholarship them. But we expect them to join when they get a job and to pay. We expect that.
Right. When you get a
just
job.
Just like you expect them to do business with you.
Yeah, in
the back of your mind.
Yeah, I don't expect it, but yes, I do.
You do expect
it. It's the law of reciprocity. It does come there. I would say, yes, I do expect it. It's not an expectation.
Perfect. Because you see, the heart of a healthy giver is a full heart.
Correct.
Because
I fully
in this
expect
world,
it does come back.
It goes 180 degrees.
It's the law of reciprocity. But it is never, ever, ever an expectation to work with me, or I'm not like upset. Matter of fact, I had a guy just the other day we were working with. We worked with him for a year. I helped him land a job. Trust me, I helped him with his mindset more than just landing employment. I helped this guy so much. And we had conversations about retirement. We had all those conversations. He didn't even know he had enough money to retire. We planned it all out, mapped it all out, and he ended up going somewhere else that was local because he was across the country. Yeah. He ended up going with a local. But I know it was through my conversations that helped him get there. Like, I helped him get to retirement, whether somebody else got credit for that or not. I helped that guy retire, right? But I didn't feel bad about it. When he told me he was going somewhere else, like, I was like, dude, it's cool, man. I'm just happy that our conversations have led you there to a point where you don't have to go search for a job anymore. Like, I'm excited for you. You're headed to the next generation. I was not upset at all. I was so happy for him.
I'll never forget, early on in my career in insurance, I called on a CPA that I met when my father died in 1972 through Mike Block. And I called on him about insurance. And he said, Bill, I can never buy from you. My brother-in-law's an insurance agent. And this gentleman was Jewish, very deeply involved in the Jewish community. And I said, that's okay, I understand that. You're kind of stuck. He said, oh, believe me, I'm stuck. I can't buy insurance from anybody. Never sold him a thing until 25 years later. Mm. He said, I got to buy something from you. Let me buy a little term. Let me at least buy a little term policy before I die. And he did, a $50,000 term policy. But that man, because I didn't walk away from him, was my singular biggest referral source.
Bingo.
Because he would not refer to his brother-in-law.
Isn't that crazy?
He would not. He hated him. He wouldn't refer to him.
That's exactly right. So the person that I'm speaking of, that he ended up, again, he went somewhere else because they were local, and he needed somebody that could hold his hand through the process that was there local, he could meet in person. Totally cool. I'm like, dude, I understand it, man. You know, I wish I could be that person for you, but I'm not. But he's like one of my biggest champions. Like, he's a walking, talking billboard for me. You know what I mean? Not for the other guy. The other guy didn't spend a whole year serving him. I served that guy water, okay, for a whole year in his darkest season of life. Okay, I didn't get the business for it, but that's okay. I don't have an expectation. There's zero expectation to do business with me. It's about serving. I want to help you. I want to help you recover. I want to help you to turn your setback into your set up. Okay? And you know what? If you end up doing work with me and we work professionally together, that's cool too.
My biggest client ever. For the first year and a half I worked with him, his insurance and benefits and stuff was so screwed up that he could not change without costing him several $100,000. He said, I want to change anyway. I got to get out. I said, no. I said, just, we'll go on the way it is and just keep me in the loop and let me help you with the decisions you might have to make. I didn't get paid for almost 2 years working with him, and yet he became my largest client. And through him, I ended up with 20 other companies. But I didn't get paid for the first year.
Man.
And I look back on that, and I was told, that's a China egg. You're never going to get any money. You're just wasting your time. But you have a sixth sense. Trust your heart and intuition. They already know where you're going. And think about back to Success North Dallas. Our qualifications for membership were very, very simple. Be a success in your own eyes. Nobody has the right to define what success is for you but you. Honor your commitments. Let's go back to the handshake. And be a giver. It's all about our fellow men and women. It wasn't some litany of all these things you had to be and titles you had to have and money you had to have. It was who you are. So when you're out there networking, think about who these people are. Go back to that. It's not who you know. It's not what you know. It's what you know about who you know. And go back to think about that and take the time to get to know these people, because it's just like a diamond. It comes out ugly, dirty, but yet when you start polishing it, the more you polish it, the more facets you see of that diamond. And with each facet, perhaps that's another new client from that person.
Mm-hmm. Bill, before we go and wrap this up, I got one last question for you, okay? When people think of your legacy, right, you were talking about Casey talking about your legacy and trying to promote your legacy. When you think about your legacy, and not just Success North Dallas, but by the way you've lived, how do you want to be remembered?
You know, a leader, many people will define a leader as all those that walk behind him or her. I define a leader as all those that walk beside you. And I want to be remembered by the people that walk beside me. I don't want my name on a building. I simply want somebody to say, Wallace's footprints walked through here. Every talk I give, every program I'm on, and I know we're coming to the end, I close it like this. May you do what you love to do with people you love to do it with on purpose. God bless and Godspeed. And I have really enjoyed this today.
Mic drop. Mic drop. That's good. I like that. Can we say that one more time? Do what you love to do.
May you do what you love to do with people you love to do it with on purpose. God bless and Godspeed.
Let's go. Guys, that's the show. It's all about who you know. Bye.
Bye.